Hello and welcome to another episode of Speculative Speculations. I'm Varsha.
I'm Jared.
I'm Steve.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Dan.
And this is a series where we talk about speculative stories in all their forms. Today we're going to be starting our discussions of Redshirts. For whatever novel we pick, we read approximately 100 pages unless it is still enough time, and then we can't wait and we do 150 pages instead. So today's discussion will bring us to about page 96 or so of the US edition, I guess the UK edition too, which is up to the end of chapter 9. For next week, I didn't check with anyone before doing this, but what chapter are we going to for the next 100 pages? I think it's maybe chapter 21, if I remember correctly. I looked at this yesterday, but we'll talk about it after.
Chapter 21 is right.
Chapter 21, okay. Yep. That's how far we're reading for next week. And the short story today is Beyond Lies the Wub by Philip K. Dick, where we found out that K stands for kindred. That's interesting. And not in the short story, but in the introduction to the short story. Mm-hmm. And the short story for next week is The Snowball Effect by Catherine McLean. So with that, let's get into Redshirts. I want to start with a silly question, I guess. Am I the only one here who hasn't seen any Star Trek? I have to be, right? Ever? Am I?
I haven't seen any Star Trek.
Oh, what? Interesting. Wow. I thought I'd be the outlier. What?
No. Wow. I thought Chris, we're a minority. Wow.
What? I was getting ready to get beaten down and bullied into watching Star Trek immediately.
No, you don't have to. It's all right.
Well, this is really fascinating.
Absorb some of it. Yeah.
This is going to be really fascinating because I think the whole thing is predicated on the fact that you have watched a shitload of Star Trek.
Yep.
But I'm sure every one of us knows about Star Trek through culture and other media, and you know all of it and the main themes and what happens. I don't know. Yeah. That's how I feel. I basically know what happens through hearing other people talk about it.
Yeah, I mean it's
Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say it's just kind of you have all the cultural references, and not that you know specifics, but I knew enough to find the humor in it. It wasn't lost on me.
Exactly.
So I haven't even been around a lot of people who have watched Star Trek, so I don't even know the cultural references. This is reading this book is like when I watched one of those Ryan George Twitch meetings without actually having seen the movie or the honest trailer, so whatever. I still enjoy those, but I guess I would find them funnier if I had the context.
I mean, I think the context for the main context you need for this is just that the main guys always never die and the red shirts always die because they need some direct. I mean, most of it is explained there, right? They literally explain the tropes during the book.
Yeah.
That they're right. So I don't know.
It's funny. It's that is the main concept without doubt. That's I think that's the basis for the writing of the book. But it's all the weird stuff where people just appear out of nowhere and the rationale for all of that kind of stuff, the really in-joke stuff that is TV show related, is where you go, why are people just, who is this person that only seems to be involved in certain situations and all of that kind of stuff? I find a lot of that properly hilarious. I tittered my way through a lot of the 90-odd pages in this book. It was more humorous than I normally find this stuff.
But a lot of it was if you know TV tropes,
that's true.
It can apply to this, right? But I'm sure if you know all the characters Spock and the scientist and all the other guys, you're I see parallels and that's funny because of I know those characters. I guess we don't know them, so we don't get that part. But I still found it very, very funny.
Well, I'll direct this one thing at Jared. So this will be the one character, the touchy-feely handsy guy, who makes a creepy pass at everybody is Riker, obviously. He's a bit too over familiar and friendly with everybody in the crew, and yeah,
I forgot about that.
Everybody's running about going. He's a bit creep, but he thinks everybody loves him. You know, that's just the way it goes.
So, who's that guy supposed to be in the main series?
So that's Lieutenant Lefebvre or
Frensky?
Frensky, that's the one. Frensky, that's the guy. Yeah.
But like, so who's the show equivalent for that guy?
Commander William T. Riker from the Next Generation.
He's the guy with the beard, right?
Yes. Well, not in Series 1.
Okay.
In Series 1, he's beardless and he's less of a man. Okay. You know, obviously.
So, what do you guys think of? I listened to the audiobook, so I kept thinking the character's name was Doll, not.
Oh, Doll.
I don't know how I would have said it in my head. Doll. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, is anyone else listening to the audiobook by Will Wheaton?
Will Wheaton.
What do you guys think?
Well,
it was good. One thing that kind of is bothersome with the audiobook is after every line of dialogue, there's so and so said, so and so said, so and so said. It's like, geez. I get why he has to do it, but it's
but Will Wheaton does character voices. Surely he does it in every other audiobook I've ever heard him do. He actually differentiates his characters. No.
Oh, actually, the ones that I have heard, he doesn't do voices, except for the one drunk guy. He didn't do any voices. He does even the female voices in his own voice. I listened to Martian and this one. Those are the only two Will Wheaton audiobooks I've listened to. But yeah, I had the exact same problem with the audiobook, Steve. And I think he also changes his intonation a bit with the doll said. So it's in the book and he has to read it, but also I guess the way he's reading it is a little like, okay, can we get this dialogue stream to end?
It's like you don't. I get the book says that, but you don't have to repeat it every time. Like I wish there was some leeway there with. I get why he did, but at the same time, unless someone else is talking, you don't really have to say that because you're still in the same character. But
is that how other like audiobooks are? Like they skip parts of a book if they're redundant in like audio form?
Not that I can think of. I mean, usually unless a different character speaks, you usually assume it's the same character.
Okay.
I would suggest that a lot of modern books issue the such and such said. Like that doesn't happen that often in modern books. Like I think of nearly every crime book, they don't do it. Like it's a very old fashioned thing to do, I think. It's two-way conversations.
I think if
kind of
you're
speak
reading,
themselves.
Did it bother you guys while you were reading? I think I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks lately, so I feel like I would have noticed it if other books did it. So yeah, while you're reading, do you just like sort of skip over that?
Yeah, I don't even see it. I just read the dialogue and I just keep going. I did find in this book that I did have to look at the name sometimes because I found a lot of the characters a little too similar.
Yeah.
A lot of the times. And I was just like, okay, which one's that? Which one's that?
So, and I think that's intentional, though.
Maybe it is, but it was confusing sometimes about who was talking. And eventually, I actually didn't care who was talking because it didn't really matter that much to forward the plot and the joke. And other than the main guy, Doll, Doll, it didn't matter really who was talking. It was just kind of meshed together. You knew he had a crew around him. You knew he had certain connections with the lab people, and and so on and so forth. And so I didn't. I kind of but like you were saying, Vash, with the he said she said, you kind of just you don't even see it really after a while when you're reading the book itself.
Yeah, I found it a pretty smooth read.
Yeah.
To say.
Yeah, it was very quick.
To be honest, I probably could have finished the entire book this week. Like, it would have been
Probably.
It would not have been
Easy,
that
yeah.
tough to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a pretty easy read. I did the last 4 chapters for today. I read that. I didn't listen to the audiobook, and I think I did all of them. It was about 25, 30
Yeah.
pages, I think. It took me less time than my usual reading pace, which means I guess it's an easy read. And if I hadn't listened to the audiobook, I probably wouldn't have noticed the dialogue tags at all. So it's
Yeah.
interesting the things that become prominent, I guess, depending on the format that you choose.
Yeah. But for me, it was not a negative. I mean, compared to the stuff all the other stuff I'm reading recently, it's a nice breath of fresh air, to just be able to read without,
I don't know what you're talking about, Dan. All those chapters we read from the Unholy Consult were like super lightweight and not at all.
Sure.
It was a change for sure. It was a lot lighter and funnier, but I do think the characters are very similar on purpose. So I think that's kind of the wink and the nod to the genre, and like they're all pretty much the same. There's just like a couple of characters that stick out, maybe one, maybe not, but they're all pretty much the same people. So I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
The big question, of course, is how do you take a kind of simple conceit and make a 300-page book of it? Because when I was reading it, going like, I'm really enjoying and getting the humor out of this, but where's the story? You know what I mean? That's how do you develop this into a novel? It's incredibly meta. Like, I don't think I've ever read anything quite at that level, including the fact that at a certain point you're like, oh, all these characters are all the same. That's the point. That's the TV series. That's everything about it.
So can I ask, like, where were we supposed to end? Because I read ahead because I was not supposed to be able to join today, so I read ahead. So I'm trying to remember up until when did we read?
When it says the last line is Jenkins saying, "As far as I can tell, it's not actually a very good show."
Yeah.
So,
okay, I see. Okay, there's a story after that, which is actually funny. It was interesting, but
which
I'm
was
gonna
like
refrain.
which was like the worst news than them possibly being killed. Worst news was the show's actually not good.
Yeah.
It was a chapter ender. None of the other character deaths ended chapters.
Yeah.
Kind of where they lost me a little bit, though. That whole meta thing, a little bit, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't hate it because of that. I mean, I still enjoyed it. It was still fine, but I don't like the whole meta thing. Like, when they go too meta, it's kind of, why? We know what it is. I mean, we know it's a parody. It's like an homage to those shows, and that, like, why do we have to? I don't know. But
there is a reason. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that they tried to pull it back around by saying, oh, there hasn't been TV in like hundreds of years or whatever, what is this concept of TV? But there is no doubt when you're reading it, you know what it is. It's very much a satire and a play on Star Trek. And the fact that they even name it so specifically, I was like, okay, that's an interesting thing. It makes it a bit Galaxy Questy, if that makes sense. And
exactly.
I think Galaxy Quest is like a phenomenal parody of Star Trek. It sort of is hard to top that in a lot of ways. So again, interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm interested too, because that's exactly what I thought about was Galaxy Quest, and I was like, well, what's he gonna do that's different from that?
Yeah.
Because that, like you said, that was the ultimate parody of Star Trek in movie form, and so how is he going to escape the trap of just doing the same thing? I don't know. That remains to be seen, because the characters only just found out. It's it's a reverse of Galaxy Quest. In Galaxy Quest, they're in a TV show and then they're in the real thing. But here, they're in the real thing, and all of a sudden they find out that they could possibly be in a TV show. That and of course most of them probably don't believe it yet. But so it would be interesting to see how he resolves that, I guess, towards the end, and how and why it's going to take him 200 pages to do so.
Yeah, I think I kind of really love the idea. I may or may not have got some spoiler, not
Oh,
intentionally, but
Not intent.
I
Did you
mean,
read the last line again?
You're
yeah, it
so
is.
unlucky. I mean, I cannot believe that one person could be that unlucky all the time, Barsha. You're, oh, you're jinxed.
Like, fool me
What?
once, fool me twice, but like, come on.
Yeah.
But I never fooled you. I always said I went looking intentionally for spoilers when I did. But this time was unintentional. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
I don't know how I'm gonna follow that with what I'm gonna say. But actually, okay, no. What I thought might happen. This has nothing to do with the spoilers. I don't know why I started with that, but I thought
Honestly.
Guilty
the
conscience.
Yeah.
I just like to get yelled at. I think that's what the sorry, I thought where this was going is they find out that they are characters in a TV show or something like that. Kind of like that. They find out that they're in a simulated reality and they're not real and whatnot. But I love that that's not what happened, at least so far as we've read. What we're being told instead is that a TV show sort of leaking into their reality, which is kind of awesome as a concept. Like, it does build on, I guess, some other tropes, like if you read a book and you're bringing things to life here and so on, but the characters trying to figure out what it is about their world. And like, I think it has a bit of it reminded me of a lot of other books too. I guess it's the sorry, my computer is really noisy today, but the Star Trek, of course, but it reminded me a bit of Sea of Tranquility because of one of the central premises there. And also The Rest of Us Just Live Here, which is this YA book, which it follows a bunch of characters who are in a school that have a lot of superhero people who are off saving the world, but we follow just the characters who aren't the superheroes, and every chapter just opens with an epigraph of like people running and screaming off in the distance. And sorry, one thing. And then these guys are just living their lives. So this reminded me of that, where we're following the side characters, not the main characters.
Yeah. You know what it did remind me of? It reminded me a lot of Discworld, like the sort of humor and
Yes.
they, taking like, this sort of thing is silly, and that they do in shows and books, and just like, but it's obviously the normal thing to do here, right? So we're gonna do it. I like that sort of humor. It resonates with me.
Yeah, I like that. I love the prologue because you start out and you got this poor guy. He's making this heroic effort to do all this stuff, right? And you get his point of view, and it's like, why didn't they tell us these things, and why didn't they, and all that stuff. Then he gets killed, and you get the other point of view from the officer's point of view. That idiot! Why didn't he read what these things? Just I love the role reversal in the prologue, and I feel like that's going to reflect the role reversals coming up soon as we move through the story here. I wonder if, because it's all from Dahl's and point of view, and he's and you got this guy Jenkins subverting the system from within, kind of, and you wonder how they're going to take charge eventually, from whatever forces are, the producers, I guess, of the show, how they're going to take charge and take the narrative away from them, basically.
there was that moment as well when they were like, who can fly one of those things, and all the characters instantly know that this guy has the skill, even though it's never been discussed before, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, there's an awful lot of influences I can kind of see from, like, things like Murderbot come to mind, where he just sits and watches loads of old TV and stuff. And I wonder if the kind of genesis of the idea is, like, if you knew that setup and that construct, how do you subvert it from within now? Do they just go and watch crap loads of Star Trek now to see what happens in the Star Trek show? Because it's those ridiculous, like, it's like they go to a world and all of a sudden there's ice sharks. Are they sharks made of ice? Or are they, all of these ridiculous things? And again, making me think of Galaxy Quest when they're getting through and they see the machine. Why would a machine like this exist? Because it was on one of the episodes of the TV show. It's like this incredibly, killer machine that's just been done there because that's what you do in TV series. And the whole thing's just, I just found it incredibly funny the whole way through it. That's why it's such a quick read, I think, is because the humor pulls it along.
And in the introduction I have in here, Scalzi was a writer on Stargate. And so he's, of course, quite familiar with all the sci-fi tropes.
I'm sure he must be a fan of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think you have to be.
Yeah.
Oh,
you have to. Yeah.
When is doing, I guess, would you call this a parody? When is exploring these tropes and laughing at them and poking fun and good natured? When is it too much?
Too much is in boring, or too much is in offensive?
No, not offensive.
Too much is in
it takes a lot more than that to offend me. You should know that by now.
No, I was thinking more like other people would be, I don't know, like, oh, you're criticizing my show. You know what I mean? But...
No, I think like too much is in, and I don't mean this in a insulting way, but kind of a one-trick pony. Like, if that's all you're gonna bring, then I don't know, like, put a twist, like do something new with it. Like, not that I didn't like it. I mean, I think it's fine, but when is it like, okay, that's cool and everything, but what's new? What's new about the story? What are you going to do differently than Galaxy Quest or another parody? So, just a general question.
Yeah, that is the question. And this apparently this book won a Hugo Award.
Yeah, I find that
best novel.
So interesting.
So the Hugos are kind of their credibility is under question, but no, I that's a whole nother thing. Yeah.
All the Hugos I read were really, really good.
Yeah, me too. That's why I was surprised.
So,
but it may have been just 1 year. Who knows?
Okay.
But with that in mind, I'm hoping that he's got something near the end of this book that's really gonna be different than your Galaxy Quest and the other stuff. Yeah.
But it's even though it's very clever. Like I'm finding it clever. I do agree with you, Stephen, so far as like how much more legs can you get out of this idea. But it is only 300 pages long, so I sort of assume that you've got another couple of tricks to kind of pull along that are recognizable. But also, if you include even a bit of plot or a bit off the side here, you'll run out of pages very, very quickly. So I'm kind of in that mode. Another thing, I don't know if anybody else has seen it. Has anybody watched Black Mirror, the USS Callister, which is again another parody homage? If anybody's listened to this or otherwise, that is one to seek out on Netflix. The USS Callister, I think it's like season 4, season 5, episode 1. It does a really good job of this stuff as well. It's a feature-length episode of Black Mirror, and it's terrific. Especially if you've, although I haven't said that for Steve, Dan, and Varsha. You should just go watch some Star Trek, man. There's a lot of Star Trek to watch.
I watched like the first 15 minutes of the first episode. Does that count? I did that this week because I really wanted to know. I wanted to get examples, I guess, of the things that I saw in this book. But I guess it's not a good thing to do after reading a parody like this, because I felt like I found things that were meant to be serious funny too, and that's not the right approach. to
Yeah.
watching a show like that.
It's you can't help but it was made in 1967 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You can't help but laugh at it nowadays. I mean, no
Mm.
matter how you're gonna go into it, it's so camp
Yeah.
that you know you do it for the laughs. You do it for the silliness of what they were doing and what they were trying to do, and just take it with a grain of salt. You know.
The main reason why I never got into it was because it doesn't really have any like really special effects or anything, right? It's pretty, at least the classic ones. I'm not talking about like the 2000s or the movies or whatever. It's like they're pretty, I don't want to say low budget, but you know, they're not like Star Wars where you go, you see over the battles. It's all about the show, right? So then it's more about the plot, right? It's interesting. Plot is more hard sci-fi. But at that point, I would rather read a book or a story in which it can be explored a bit better, and then it doesn't rely on having, you know, budget issues or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
That's
there's a certain amount of nostalgia that goes with that stuff, you know, especially when you're my age, and you were watching that stuff as a kid, and
yeah.
you know, there was something special about it when it first came out. Nobody was doing anything like it, and so it was, you know, it wasn't special enough to go beyond 3 seasons, but it was special.
Yeah, I think this also, I mean, it mimics much more the Next Generation because they're a much larger cast, if that makes sense. And the red shirt thing was
it does
was definitely there. And think about a lot of what this book is mimicking is actually the constraints of a 45-minute runtime. I think in terms of the story, etc. Because in 45 minutes, you have to set up a premise, you have to do your 3-act structure, have a resolution. So in order to fix that, you have to have people appear from nowhere. You need to have guest stars who seem to know everything, and you need a box that basically says you put the thing in the box, and about half an hour before you need it, you take it out again. That bit was hilarious. Like, honestly,
that was funny. The box was hilarious.
We couldn't do this really. It's just, I just tell you, stick it in the box, and then make up some word about something that's wrong, and the captain will tell you exactly how to fix it, and then it'll be all right. So good. That was so clever.
All the jokes about the timing, it's like, oh well, we have 5 minutes. Why? Because that introduces, you know, tension and all the sort of stuff. It's like,
and a bit about how the guy, like when they list off all the bad things that happen to all the characters, and yet they're still on their feet. I love that. I obviously haven't seen Star Trek, but I did that for a different show. And I listed all the bad things that happened to all the people in this one town with like 5 people, and all the good things that happened to them too. And it was just too much.
But in every show, it's like there's always a guy, or if some guy gets shot or he gets stabbed or whatever, as long as he doesn't lose a limb, or as long as he's not in the head or whatever, it's always a flesh wound, and it's good in like 4 days or not even. So for the next episode, he's always good.
Yeah,
he's definitely making fun of episodic TV, where the next episode, it's a clean slate, it's a blank slate, and you're starting again with a new story, just the same characters. That's it, you know. And he's definitely riffing on that, especially with the lieutenant, the one who gets the bubonic plague thing or whatever it was, and then
the flesh melting plague or something.
Flesh melting plague, and he's cured. He's going out on another mission. 2 weeks later,
it was the line of conversation that said, "You're the guy that needs to do it, so we can save the lieutenant." And he goes, "And millions of people on the planet as well." Oh yes, those as well. But mainly the lieutenant.
I thought it was a really nice touch that Kerensky, is that the name of the guy who had the plague? That he wasn't in on it. Like, he
Yes.
feels pretty terrible about being beaten up. Like, it's not like he has some magic powers that he's not telling the other people
Right.
about. He's as confused as the others about what's
Yeah.
happening to him.
My family's always had a great constitution. What?
Yeah.
He drinks heavily to kind of get over the trauma. And even the point that they make about the fact that if that happened to one person twice, the amount of trauma that they went through about loss would be on the scale. But this guy's been through like the absolute ringer. Oh God, so good.
Yeah. Like Kerensky is kind of like, you know, he seems a bit stupid, but at least he seems like sort of a nice guy. But the captain and the doctor come off kind of, you know, not really very nice.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. I also love the fact that they do this investigation of actually what's going on, and the pie charts, and they have graphs, and the statistics measured against other starships and all of that kind of stuff. And then he eventually comes to, there's only been one other time in the history of the universe that this has ever happened, and we're like going, what is the other one? What is the other one? And then he basically says, no, the Enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's crazy with Enterprise in real life, like one ship actually ending up doing everything pretty much.
Yeah, 24
Like
episodes of
Amalfi.
series.
Yeah.
This-
Captain Kirk was probably influenced by Amalfi.
Interesting. Really selling that show, Jared.
Yeah. Just skip it and go to the Next Generation, and don't do season 1. Start with season 2. You're all right.
So, the thing about the slideshows and presentations was that something that happened in the show to get people to take characters seriously, or is he just mocking at the general public for taking things with slideshows more seriously?
I think competent, qualified individuals like the Redshirts are supposed to be, people that have worked their whole lives to get to a certain point. This is the way that they would undergo an investigation, and not just have a box or not have some sort of MacGuffin that'll get them out of any problem. This is how they did the investigation. Like, he goes and asks for the plans of the two things. Again, that's satisfying to read, because that is more like a crime novel or some sort of proper investigation, rather than the character coming in through the door that you've never met before, who whispers in your ear, it's because of, whatever.
By the time we got to the explanation of like when Dahl is telling off the other people in his department that the reason we haven't been able to replicate any of your results is because you have a magic box. I kind of forgotten why he had come on the ship by that point, but so it was hilarious when we got that call back to his original mission, and he's like, I'm not going to be able to do anything because you guys have this magic box.
Yeah.
Very convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and one joke I really liked, well, ongoing joke, I guess, is like all the time they reference like, oh, I owe you a hand job or a blow job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one.
Pretty funny.
And I love that when what's his name? The Kerensky. He said, "Do you guys want hand jobs?" He's like, "No, I already have 2. I didn't ask for. Thank
That's it. But it's this kind of funny poke at this post-future society where monetary value has nothing, so you have to trade in other things apart from monetary value or gifts. Like, food's not a problem, so you can't do chocolate or whatever.
Yeah.
It's it's the promise of a hand job problem.
It's also like just symbolic. It's not really
symbolic hand job.
Yes.
Oh God. We're gonna have to mark this explicit now. But God damn it!
Well, I always mark it not for children. Oh, maybe. Okay, I think the podcast I do mark it as clean.
Okay.
It's fine.
I'm sure there's no children listening to this.
It's fine.
But
kids read these days? I didn't know that.
That's true. But in case there are any kids, just don't Google it. You'll be fine.
Yeah. And they went right there. They just Googled it right now because of you, Chris.
Damn. What's that? Is that
I mean, if they read the book. and then they came here. All we did is say it out loud.
It's true.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there are kids listening, they shouldn't be seeking out spoilers. That's what you get. It's a life lesson.
Very true. Very true.
But the
It's
fact
a
that we never
harder
meet
life
Wesley Crusher's dad actually makes an awful lot more sense now. Anyway. Oh,
Oh man.
so many more Star Trek jokes I could do if with more people who'd watch Star Trek. This is such a wasted opportunity.
No, tell. I kind of wanted to spend a lot of this episode going over what Star Trek things I didn't get.
Look, wait, do you know what we should do, Varsha? Since you give me one new reading assignment this week, you did that this week, Dick. We'll give you a homework assignment. We'll just do a podcast for every Star Trek episode. It's all right. There's not that many of them.
Wait, are you kidding me? This just the first thing. The original series has like 75 episodes. No,
Yep.
it was 30 episodes. And they're not even short episodes. They're 45 minutes long. And
Yeah.
It's all right. Next Generation, like 7 series, Voyager 7 series, Deep Space Nine 7 series, Enterprise only got 4, Discovery's got 5, Strange New World's got 2. You're all right. You're fine.
Yeah. They only take 20 years, so.
Yeah.
We're already on a 15-year friendship. Like, I don't see your resistance to this one.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough.
would-
Like more excuses to hang out with you guys. Sure, let's do it.
It would take less time to read Malazan than it would to watch all Star
Oh
Trek.
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And yeah, don't worry, it gets good after the 4th season, so don't worry. That's what people say about TV shows,
Yes.
right?
But,
People say about Malazan.
I mean, yeah, that was
That's true.
a great timed joke because that's what people say about Malas.
It all
Very
makes sense
true.
in the last book. It all comes together in the last. Everything makes sense in the last book.
No, Melissa
Okay.
gets good in the second book. Come on.
I like Gardens of the Moon. I
Well,
don't know.
Good
Well,
at
because you've read it
fun.
more than one time.
I've read it like 3 times.
Yeah,
but,
that's
yeah.
fine.
But it's not to get too far off track, but the third, what's the third book?
Memories of Ice.
No, the
Yeah.
second book I really like.
Yeah.
Dead House Kids.
Dead House Gates. Pretty dark.
Yeah, I remember you commented on one of my videos where you said
Mhm.
you didn't like Memories of Ice.
That's where
or
they
at
lost
least
me.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll fix that during.
That's why I'm counting on you.
Yeah,
But
Varsha's seen
while
that. She registered on the Page Tune site and says, I'm going to fix him.
I can fix
I
it.
will not let this stand.
Memories of Ice. I finished the series, so Memories of Ice is still my favorite book of them all. So we will get you to like it. Steve.
I'm sure you're wrong, but you know, we'll get to it.
Okay. This reading this book though, since we're talking about Steven Erikson, has made me hopeful that I will probably enjoy Willful Child.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah. I agree.
Have you read it, Jared?
I have not, no, but
Okay.
I would, and I am now eager to see Erickson's spin on Star Trek, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I'd say in defense of Star Trek Next Generation is the end of season 2 has some good episodes, but the end of season 3, even my youngest sister was like, give me more of these episodes. These are great. So there you go.
Interesting. So I should start at season 3.
Just start as soon as Riker has a beard. It's pretty much a good part. Not that the first episodes are really that terrible. They're just a bit... They're a bit twee. Everybody's a bit too good do-gooders.
Too tweed.
That's, yeah. It's,
I don't know.
I've
All
heard
Star.
I've heard people recommend like I don't know, like list of episodes you can watch instead of just watching
Oh, yeah.
everything because there's very varying quality and they're very episodic, so you don't really need to watch everything. So you can just watch the best ones in theory.
That's a good idea, actually.
That's a great idea, but it's not how Varsha's brain works. She has to start at the start at number 1
You're
and has to do every single one after that, so she doesn't make sure she misses not a tiny bit. Like, I know these things, Varsha, it's fine. I got you. I got your back.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
That is funny because it's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, I only watched like 15 minutes, and I kind of see what you mean by the do-gooders thing, because like the main character Kirk and the doctor had this whole conversation about how he's responsible for all these lives on the ship and whatnot, and it was great. And I hate that I found it funny. It was a good conversation. There was two good people talking to each other about all the responsibilities on their shoulders. But I guess it's
And
just, you were saying
I'm
that.
responsible for all these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that kind of dramatized statement of these facts, I'm not used to, so I found them funny. So maybe I'll get used to it. I don't know.
Damn it, Kirk! I'm a doctor, not a social worker.
Love it.
So I was wondering, the only thing I know about Star Trek, though, that I've heard is the Spock character. And that I know because I watched Heroes, and I know one of the characters who was in Heroes was
Sylar,
Spock. Yeah. Is there an equivalent for that guy in this book, or is
don't
it
know
just
yet.
all
Haven't
the
met
humans?
science officers yet, or otherwise. I mean, I sort of expect that we're not going to get a 1-to-1 at that stage, but maybe maybe we will.
Who's then Quaylog, whatever, the Q guy?
Queeg,
yeah.
King.
I thought that he was Spock. Again, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, but he is the science officer, but there's nothing about him that's particularly. There's no logic to him. Like it's not. He's not or not that we've seen so far. Maybe he's just one of the main bridge guys. I'm going to make a postulation because I like making predictions that are incredibly wrong, right? Yeah. Dan might know this already, but I mean, our main character Dal has not worked out yet that in the TV show he's a main character. I think he's the guy that's been sent in to change the ratings, so he's got plot armor because obviously the last scene where the two people around him died when they threatened to kill him. I think and now he's been moved to the bridge. Just compulsion, just been happened. I think he
right.
is.
He did just get moved to the bridge. Yeah.
There's my speculation for this one.
I like that. That might also explain why Jenkins took an interest in this guy, right? Like, what reason did he have? I did not really buy his explanation for. I thought you might take this more seriously than the others did. So I thought what you said would make it so that it's one of those moments where, just like Dal knew that someone could fly a shuttle, maybe Jenkins just randomly had this thought inserted in his head that you should go give this guy some information. Wait, but that would break away from the TV show premise, so.
Wouldn't that mean, like, because if he was going to be like a new star, then he probably would have had a backstory. He probably would have experienced the narrative taking over at some other point before, maybe. I don't know.
But nobody else knows that they're in the narrative, so to speak. They're just sort of living their life.
Well, but sometimes, like when they're on a mission, the text says like, I have this strange impulse for no reason to do this thing, and they realize it's a weird impulse, right?
So, but he has explained that he was just fortunate that he moved slightly out of the way, or it would have caught him. When the two things descended on the people that pulled the guns, he's sort of rationalizing it, going, God, wasn't I lucky? I moved at exactly the right second. Otherwise, I'd have been in trouble myself. So, I think that, I mean, I could be completely wrong because, let's be honest, I always am. But that's where the fun is. Exactly, we don't know. But I think when that happened and they pulled the gun on him and they were going to shoot him, I went, "Oh, he's got plot armor." That's what this is saying for some reason. And if it's not a good TV show, I mean, that's the Galaxy Quest part.
I mean, if we want to go even more meta, he is the main character of the book.
Yes, exactly.
Right? He can't just die off randomly.
He's the Captain Kirk.
Again, incredibly meta. Like I had exactly the same thought, Dan, insofar as like he has plot armor in this book for exactly the same reason. Yeah.
And his friends are also kind of more important, so they can't die as easily, right? I think they might die, but it should be in a support the book plot sort of way.
Yes,
I
exactly right. To get it'll be to give him sadness or to give him sorrow or to make him contemplative. It's not about those individual characters,
Or take revenge or something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, now I want a book that satirizes this book. Parody of a parody.
What
Just
do you
call it
get when
Jenkins.
you meta fiction?
Then it becomes serious again. Is that what it is? I don't know.
Oh.
Comes full circle.
Sure, it must be. I'll look it up after if there's something, a parody of a parody.
Well, there's lots of things that satirize, genres in that way. So like there was even a recent Doctor Who episode that took the piss out of Bridgerton. Like in those types of series, this happens at this stage. Let's use this confrontation in a certain way to achieve our aims, and they sort of are always looking at what happens normally in these shows and do that with it. So I think that's essentially the same thing, possibly.
Yeah. And Dan, you mentioned Discworld earlier. I guess possibly the first two Discworld books do just that, right? They kind of take a dig at the fantasy genre and all the things, at least the sword and sorcery aspects of it. So.
Yeah. And it's all very tongue-in-cheek in the way that it's explained as if it's the most obvious things in the world, and at the same time it's explained as if it's the most stupid thing in the world.
Yep, talking swords make an appearance. Anyway, I'm trying to think what has happened. Is there a Hester equivalent in the show, like the super rich guy, or the son of the richest guy in the universe or galaxy?
Not that I can think of, but I think it's interesting because I think he's used as a plot to say that in the outside world he's important. Outside of the ship, people fawn over and want to be friends with him, all of that kind of stuff. As soon as he steps on this ship, this Intrepid ship, he's a nobody. He's just a redshirt. There is nothing about him that stands out. I mean, it could be that there is something more at play here that is interesting, but I just took that as the point of him kind of before we start. But again, it could be horrifically wrong. Normally,
I mean, the son of the richest guy in the world is a very common trope, I guess, to put in somewhere.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm sure that's happened at some point during all this long Star Trek career episodes. But,
I thought you were saying, I'm sure it's happened in real life. I don't think it's happening ever in real life. The rich son of a rich guy goes into the army of the richest guy in the country. No,
and is sent on away missions to go get killed.
Yeah, I don't think that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this briefly when talking about Kessler or Kessinger. Anyway, the lieutenant who got drunk. Kerensky. What did I? Oh my god, I don't even know where
Kessler,
I went.
I think?
I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking.
We're close enough. It begins with a K.
But I like that again, it felt in the beginning like it could be that the top level administration is complicit in the bad things happening to their team somehow, but that they're not. Like we saw this with, I'm gonna say Kessler again. What's his name?
Kerensky.
Kerensky.
Keep saying Kessler.
Just say K.
K.
I'll put it in the thumbnail. I'll
say like, oh yeah, Kevin, Kim, kombucha, something. Just we know who you're talking about.
That guy. Yeah, so I guess they are not aware too, not the other guys whom we haven't explored either. So it'll be interesting if they ever find out, and I'd be curious to see if the plot heads towards letting them in on it and not just the underlings.
Yeah, I really wonder what the whole thing is. What's behind? What's making them do it? Like, because I can't think of anything in like science fiction that could, I don't know, mind control people like that. At the beginning, I thought it was some sort of like, is it like a Truman Show or something thing? But it doesn't seem to be that way. So I'm not sure.
My thought that it's probably a simulation rather than an actual existence. So a Matrix kind of
No,
Matrix Dark City kind of thing. But again, I've said it, so it must be wrong.
I could see that. Yeah, they put people in simulations to make shows for other people, right? In some future or something, right? I could see that. I haven't thought about it.
Interesting. What do people do for entertainment in a world where there's no television anymore?
Read.
What do people do for entertainment in Star Trek?
Holodecks. Well,
holodeck,
I mean, yeah. I was going to make a flippant conversation about hand jobs and blowjobs again, because that seems to be the only thing to talk about. But I might be too much. Yeah, I'm determined to get us that right.
The kids have left, so you're fine.
A holodeck hand job?
You know, well, doesn't everybody say that though? That if that holodecks did exist, there would be nothing but sex simulators.
Oh yeah,
like that.
It'd be a huge porn show all the time.
Yeah, they would have literally 95% of its use would be that. Yeah, and not Sherlock Holmes reenactments. You know that Star Trek does.
Probably not. Yeah, I guess because isn't like I'm not sure, but isn't Star Trek like a post-scarcity society in which they have right? Okay,
it's utopian. Yeah, it's utopian society.
Yeah. So they in the show they used a holodeck a lot for like replicating the past. Like you can be in the old west or something like that and order a whiskey at the bar or whatever. You know, it's used for all kinds of different things like that.
And they go on these missions for altruistic reasons in the show?
Yeah, for the betterment of society, or for the betterment of, you know, the galaxy, so to speak. It's a very it's that idea that as soon let give you a bit of Star Trek backstory here. So when Star Trek lose contact, the movie, once they discovered warp flight, there was a this is terrible. There was a passing alien race going past that time, and they made first contact at that stage because they seen that humanity had the ability to go travel light speed. And at that stage, humanity went from what we currently know, which is constantly warring and fighting with each other, to realizing there was more to life, and there nearly overnight society became egalitarian and became about the betterment of society. So people picked roles and jobs within society to better themselves or to contribute towards that end. And food became, you know, was not a concept. Money was not a concept at that time. Everybody could have whatever they wanted at that stage.
Very optimistic.
It is.
This ties into another book we're reading in 1984.
Yeah.
The whole Utopia thing.
Isn't it funny how they all bleed together? I had the same thoughts.
It is fun.
Yeah. But I agree. And sort of, I do wonder, though, if humanity was faced with an extinction level event that was going to threaten all of humanity, right, and wipe out the planet, whether it would change our society overnight, whether the infighting would go out. Now, Adrian Tchaikovsky thinks not, because Children of Time basically says, no, they would just burn the place to the ground, still fighting. But I do wonder if this idea of states and governments and all that kind of stuff would kind of disappear at that stage, and people would we have one aim at that stage.
I feel like temporarily people might change their mind, but then people revert very quickly. Like, think about the pandemic. Like, now it feels like it almost never happened. It's like very easy for people to go back to normality, I guess, after something happens.
We are about 18 months away, Dan, from people telling us that it didn't happen and that we all imagined it, and that it was part of the control mechanisms from the government that made us think there was a pandemic. Like, who do you know that died and all of that kind of stuff? Yeah, they just had a cold. We are 18 months away from it.
Yeah.
Not even that far.
But I could see humanity uniting to, you know, I don't know, do something about a meteor or whatever. But then, 3 or 4 years down the line, it would return. Some stuff would probably, if they built correctly organizations and, you know, interconnection between states and stuff like that, and structures that would remain. But, yeah.
The big question is, if it did happen, what would we all be in society, you know? Still doing booktube videos? Podcasts?
What are you going to do?
Well, Var should find out with a lot more time and should start another couple of read-alongs.
That's cute.
I don't know. I feel like if I had free time to do anything I wanted and just do all my hobbies, I would get a bit bored and stressed out by them. So you need some variety of things. You can't just do one thing all the time, I feel.
But what if you have 15 hobbies?
I could
And
have
then you
15 hobbies, but maybe that would make me stressed out. You need like time to just do nothing, and I don't know. Or stuff like
Mm.
having something that forces, and maybe that's just me, but having something that tells me what my objective is what gives me motivation. It's hard to give motivation to myself if there's nothing there, right? To make it from nothing. So
I have no problem. I have no problem with that at
okay,
all.
fair enough.
I keep getting this work thing just gets in the way. I'm telling
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree.
We're just another day closer to retirement, right, Jared?
you. Yeah.
In Star Trek, I would just stay at home, watch holodeck, eat food. That pretty much be it, I think. Too lazy without any.
You wouldn't try to get on the strip? No.
I don't know. There's a problematic phrase in there. You'd watch the holodeck.
I don't know what holodeck is. I assume it was.
You're a bit of a voyeur in that case.
Is holodeck like virtual reality or?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Very much more interactive.
I was thinking more like Star Wars hologram sort of thing. Okay, I see.
No,
No.
get more involved in that.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like Jared would be saying, "I'm going into
So they play
holiday," here, and
video
you say, "Can I
games?
just watch you?" You know.
Just watch me play that.
Conversation killer.
Yeah, done.
And
We're done here.
we're derailed.
What were we talking about again?
Redshirts.
Redshirts.
So yes, a book that I'm enjoying quite a bit because it is a bit of escapism from like literally anything else. And actually, given the fact we're reading 1984 and making good progress through it, it is the opposite of 1984 in a lot of ways. Like it is not scurrily prescient or anything. It is just a bit of escapism and very quick to read.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very quick. So it's definitely not. It'll go fast.
Yeah.
And I find it refreshing also reading about characters which are much more similar to me than most book protagonists. In which, even if they try to be a normal person, they always do stuff that's like, that's heroes or protagonist stuff, or like either too dramatic or too heroic or too opposite of heroic,
Yeah.
But these guys are like, okay, I can see myself doing that and behaving like that.
So is there any particular character that you relate to, or just like the general genre of characters in this book?
All the Redshirts guys are like, I like, when they did all the statistics, I was like, I can see myself doing that. That would be fun to do.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Well, they need replacements.
That is true.
Yeah,
Regular.
Just on a different ship. I'll go on a different ship.
Just be careful about those away missions.
Yeah. And I like that, there's a lot of like unnecessary dialogue but it's kind of like quick and fast paced, and it's like I don't mind it. Like it's just enough to be fun, but not too much that it gets annoying. Because sometimes it get annoying. Like sometimes watching movies and they do this sort of stuff, like a lot of Marvel movies, at some point to me gets too much. But for me, it hasn't gone too much yet.
Interesting.
You don't agree?
No,
I don't know.
I was just noting that what you said was interesting. I don't have an opinion on it either way.
I don't know. Well, people always have opinions.
I do think there's an expiration date on this type of humor. It's good in short spurts, but after a while, it's like, So yeah, I think it's about right. 300 pages or so is about.
True.
Yeah, for those of you who've read Discworld, I was wondering how you compare the humor in this to, because Discworld is a very particular kind of humor, and I've read the two other writers that I think of automatically is Douglas Adams and P.G. Woodhouse. I guess it's both Adams and Pratchett are influenced by Woodhouse, so he's the OG comedian in this style, as far as I know. And most of his humor is playing with language, which I think this book isn't, right? It's mostly playing with situations, but it's still like the timing is good and everything, but it's different. And this kind of humor, I think I enjoy, but not to the extent that I enjoy the Discworld and the Woodhouse humor. So I was curious what you guys make of it. How do you compare them?
I sort of feel like Discworld does an awful lot of not having read loads of Discworld, but it does an awful lot of these situations where it's almost like the character's breaking the fourth wall and they're speaking to the reader, if you know what I mean. And then they'll say something out loud, and the character within the novel will say, "What did you say?" And it says, "It's fine. You know, it didn't really matter." In that case, if you were to compare the kind of situational humor that we have here, plus also obviously the clever wordplay that goes through it, so it isn't similar in terms of how it sets it up or executes it, but it definitely has that playfulness with the world that Discworld has, if you know what I mean. So using the fantasy setting like in Discworld, and knowing that there are various things that you can play with, the facts that, you know, witches have brooms, etc. What you can do with the fact that witches have brooms is humorous in its own right, and it does those kind of things quite similarly. Or the how wizards get their power, or the fact how invisibility works, dragons, all of that kind of stuff. You know, playing with, you know, things that people accept as true because it's in a fantasy world, but actually going, no, that's not that stuff's nonsense. That's not how it really works. This is how it really works, and
yeah, alternative explanations for things that you think you know how they work. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I guess in that way they are pretty similar.
Yeah, but we'll see what this goes in the next 100 pages. Like, I'm very, very interested to see. You know, at the point that we stopped, it always seems like we stop at the perfect point a lot of the times.
It was a good cliffhanger, like an end of an episode. You know, so we can watch the next episode next week.
Yeah,
the next 12 chapters.
Tune in next week.
What are we reading up to next week?
Up to the start of chapter 21.
Oh, the start of chapter 21? Okay. Not the end of.
That's more than 100 pages for us. Like, we could do it. Like, I could do it.
Oh, but then it'll leave too little for the next time, no?
It leaves about 100 pages for the next time. Like, it could definitely be done, you know?
It'd be exactly 100,
Yeah.
Let's go to the end of 21 then, Mulva.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll be fast.
Good.
End of 21.
End of 21.
Dan's not going to read the right place anyway, but, you know, it's fine.
That's fine. So are we ready to move on to Beyond Lies the Wub?
Yes.
Beyond Lies the Wub.
Which ironically is what Jared's having for dinner tomorrow night as a special surprise.
Mm-hmm.
The Wub. So he'll come back and talk to us about Odysseus.
Tender. Chewy. Yeah.
Yeah. Tender.
It has a bit of a Wub Top Chef. Oh, of course you are.
Wub Top Chef. So
Had
worth
to
pointing
read
out.
Jared's name for the week.
Yeah, worth pointing out, this P.K. Dick's first published story.
First one, yeah.
Very first one, which I think is sort of fascinating because I think he already has a lot of the sense of what you get from a P.K. Dick short story, insofar as that, you know, he gives you this thought piece, essentially. And he usually, it doesn't outstay its welcome. It just kind of goes, there you go. What do you think?
So you've been working your way through a collection of PKD short stories, right?
I am. Yeah.
Interesting.
And,
and you think
our next sci-fi masterwork is another PKD story as well, which I have not started yet. But so we're doing I've done quite a decent amount of PKD at this stage. Is this Steve's first?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, because there's a bit of humor in this story that you don't find in, like, Do Androids Dream?
Yeah, it's quite serious.
Sheep. That's way more serious.
Oh, I did read that.
I
forgot that was Philip K. Dick. Yeah.
Yeah, and I read something else by him too.
Ubik?
That's a Scanner Darkly. Is that?
Oh, that's Skinner
that's
Darkly
right?
said
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
That's a
That wasn't humorous either.
It's quite
Um,
serious as well. Yeah.
So it was refreshing to see a little humor from
It's his
Philip.
pre-drugs phase, obviously.
And it was nice. It was a nice little short story. It was
Nice. What kind
yeah.
of sadist are you?
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, I don't know. It seemed like the creature got what he wanted, right?
No.
He finally got to try a little cooked wub. I mean, he heard about it his whole life.
He didn't get to try nothing.
I mean, he didn't mind getting that, did he? Interesting.
A sort of examination of how humanity treats everything else on the planet. Let's put it that way. Regardless of anything other reason, like the captain, regardless of this philosophizing or anything, couldn't see him as anything else but food at the end of the day. And there was only one person on the ship that could. Same with that, and he had some pause. So with one vegan within the group.
Yeah. Just that one guy who enjoyed talking about Odysseus enough to not want to eat the wub. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Was Philip K. Dick a vegetarian or a vegan? I was trying to look for it, but I couldn't find anything.
No, I didn't. Certainly don't know that. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. But from reading most of his other short stories, he likes to poke at things that we do. If you know what I mean, things that we accept and do as normality, and just kind of look at it through a slightly different lens, and kind of say, like, it's a bit ridiculous, this, or it's a little bit, more complex than it might certainly appear. And I haven't read tons of his stories, but a lot of them have that kind of idea and theme to it. In terms of, again, thought piece. Would you have killed the wub? Would you have ate the wub?
Steve shaking his head vigorously.
No.
So the interesting thing about would you eat the wub? I think we read the story and say no, but what makes it different from the burger that you had last week, or the
So you have a connection. You've interacted with it, or at least seen it.
But a lot of people raise cattle, you know what I mean, and get to know the cattle and the families, so
Name them.
Again, very good. He doesn't present the judgment on it. He just kind of presents it as it is and kind of walks away and leaves you with it. And I think there's stuff to discuss in a lot of PK Dick's writing. That was certainly true of The Androids. I absolutely adore that book, The High Heavens. Man in the High Castle, for me, I've read the same thing. I come away from that just thinking constantly about it. And some of the ideas that he presents there, again, no judgment, just kind of like, this is what you think. And same for this one, like, you can't be repulsed by the idea that we have a talking wub. So if cows and everybody could talk or mind read, would we still be vegans instantly as a human race? Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I know several people who have seen those videos where they actually show you what the cows go through and what the animals go through and how horrendous it can actually be. That they said, okay, I'm gonna go vegetarian, and a few have stuck with it, and some haven't. Some say I'm gonna do that, and then of course they go back to old habits and just say I couldn't do it, I had to start eating meat or whatever. But some people have stuck with it just because of they saw what the industry does to these animals and what humans have done by the process of domestication to these animals. There's like, how many cows on the planet now? like a billion. There's so many. It's crazy, and so some people have turned to vegetarianism or veganism because of that reason. Some just do it because they like it. But so that's something to consider, I guess, in the context of what you were saying there. And can you? But on the same note, the guy said, "Yeah, I grew up on a farm. I don't have any problem with this." So I guess it all depends upon exposure and what's relative, to your experience.
And it's definitely presented with a huge slice of humor. Like, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing is, while it has a serious tone, it is darkly comic, if nothing else.
Yeah. I think to your point about not passing any specific judgment, but just inviting us to think about it. The ending with the implication that the captain is now the wub. I think that was a nice touch, and that the wub has no qualms about eating its own former body, and I think that
That's great.
plays a good role in not passing judgment. Like, it is not terrible if you do choose to eat the meat, I guess. Is probably what you could read that as, maybe. But
I like how he says your scientific hierarchy is not equipped to solve moral and ethical problems.
But it did remind me of is it All Ye Zombies or Predestination, I guess, the movie, which I guess is based on that short story. I won't say what that's about, so we don't spoil it.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it feels a bit like that towards the end. But yeah, I liked how the wub was written and how it was painted as this philosophical creature. And the moment when it started talking, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, any other?
But it wasn't just, and this is one of the things I think is interesting. It wasn't even that it was speaking and it could communicate; it was mind reading. So it actually, in some ways, was a more higher evolved species than ourselves, and that you could make cultural connections with it. So this almost was first contact in a sense, and they were like, I know, but it's big and fat. It probably tastes really good when you barbecue it, and the animal instinct kind of took over at that point to say, like, I'm really hungry, and we've only got like carrots, and there's not even gravy with that, so kill the wub.
What do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
They did say that they weren't going to have much food for the trip or something like that. So there was definitely a consideration of supplies. So
at that point, Jar was like, shoot him. I mean, this story can end now. At this stage, I mean, they've hardly got any other food. We're out.
Jared had the cook in his mind, like, oh, season it with this, and
the whole
time on the cook, and this is the wine I'll pair it with.
Some parsley for the thing. Do you put parsley on meat? I don't know. What do you think the title means? The Beyond Lies the Wub.
I don't know.
Is it referring to the ending, or just the fact that everybody wants to know where it is and let's eat it?
I didn't know if it was a play on that expression. There's the rub. I didn't know if it was a play on that or if it was just totally something different. I'm not sure. I mean, it does kind of have that feeling of, we're going to eat them. and there's the rub. That's the joke or the essence of the story, basically. And so Beyond Lies, I guess maybe that has to deal with the future. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what the connotation is there.
That's pretty good though. I like
that's what I thought of originally when I first read it.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think after reading the story, I didn't know how to mesh it with the titles. But yeah. Anything else to talk about the story or Redshirts?
It was pretty short. So,
It was. So
Yeah.
it was nice. It was nice. It was fun.
my Kindle behaved really strangely with this story. First, it told me I had 35 minutes to read, and then for each page I flipped, it cut 5 minutes down. I finished the whole thing in 15 minutes or something. Like, what's up with that bad estimate, Kindle?
I think it changes. It adjusts to how long you take on pages. So if you leave it sitting for a while, like if you're busy or leave it sitting, it'll adjust your reading pace. So then it will give you like an hour to read a 20-minute story because you were goofing off or you fell asleep or whatever.
Yep.
That's never happened to me, of course, but
Nor me. I always just sit and read a book and never drop it on my head because I fell asleep reading.
Yeah, the donk. That's a fun one.
Or drop the Kindle on the floor and woke up from the sound. That hasn't happened either. Nope, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so with that, we'll see everybody in a week with the Catherine McLean story, which is called The Snowball Effect, and with the next 12 chapters of Redshirts by John Scalzi. I don't know if I mentioned the author's name at all in this episode. John Scalzi. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.